Hi everyone, I am Coral, otherwise known as Luna's mom, and for the month of May, we are doing Brain Tumor Awareness Month. We are talking to caregivers and parents of brain tumor warriors or brain tumor warriors themselves. Today, I have Leslie with me. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Leslie, and I'm a cancer mom. Well, a grieving mom. And my son Rafael passed away 2 years ago, so we're learning to live without him. So, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell our story.
Of course, that's kind of the purpose of this. I want to be able to have other people tell their story of their children. Not only that, but your journey as a parent as well. So the first thing that I want to ask is, aside from, before you entered this cancer world, I want you to tell me who Rafael was.
He was a baby that I always dream of. I always wanted to be a mom. So when I found out that I was pregnant, it was amazing.
Mhm.
And when he was born, he was the light of my life. So he was a healthy baby.
Mhm.
um he was growing so fast. He was happy. He was amazing.
How old was Rafael when he was diagnosed?
He was 4 months.
He was 4 months, so he was very little babe. Okay, and what was his diagnosis?
ATRT, a typical teratoid rhabdoid tumor.
I know a lot of people, this is a question that pops up a lot. It's different for every kid. What were, you said that you felt that something was wrong. What were those initial symptoms that you noticed in Rafael as a 4 month old? Because it's very, it's very hard. A 4 month old baby can't tell you what's wrong.
The first concern was his head, that it was growing so fast.
Okay.
But my husband has a big head, so he was like, "He's fine. Look, my head is big." I was like, "No, it's just something." And then he started crying more, but babies cried a lot. And then he started sleeping more, and babies sleep more. So it was so confusing.
Hmm.
And so for me, it was just something deep inside me that was telling me something is wrong.
It's a mama gut feeling that,
Yes.
like something is wrong.
Yeah. So we went for his 4 month appointment,
Hmm.
and the doctor checked everything. His head was 100% ill,
Okay.
and they didn't say anything. I didn't know, but back then,
Hmm.
and the doctor started telling me like, "Oh, you start giving him solids," and I was like, "Okay,
Just like a regular
yeah."
check.
So I told him like, "Can you please check his head?" And when the doctor touched here the fontanelle, it was like bumpy.
Okay.
So his face was like, he said, "Oh shit." Can I
Oh,
say that?
really? Okay. Hmm.
Yeah. So he said, "Oh, I missed this." And then I was like, "What?" He's like, "You need to go right now and do an ultrasound. We need to make sure that everything is okay." So I was like, "Oh no." So we went to do an ultrasound. They sent us to Children's Hospital. I live in Granada Hills, so the way to the hospital on a Friday
How
afternoon
long is
was,
that drive? Because a lot of parents, what we people don't know is that we have to commute to these hospitals. Some of us are blessed, but some of us aren't. How long is that drive to Children's Hospital?
with no traffic, I will say about 30 minutes.
But there's always traffic here.
With traffic, uh, like almost an hour sometimes.
That's
So that Friday afternoon, uh, I was praying, I was calling everybody, like, "I'm nervous, I'm scared, I don't know what's wrong."
Mhm.
Um, and as soon as we get to the hospital, when we enter the door, something like, it was like all my worries just left. Like,
Yeah.
so I was focusing on my baby and to be calm for him, to be, present in that moment for him. So we wait for doctors. Everybody was checking on him, but it was a Friday night by that time. So um, everything was kind of delayed.
Hmm.
So the first thing they did Saturday morning, it was the MRI, and it's when they told us like, yeah, there is fluid in the brain, uh, and there is a mass in the back of the brain. We need to check, but it looks like it's cancer.
They told you immediately that it was that
Yes,
it was.
because the way it was, it looked like, yeah, it was a malignant. After that, they told us that it had cancer. It was this in my head. I'm always a worrying person. I'm always like, I cry at everything, you know. So when they told us that, I was just like, okay, what are we gonna do?
Mhm.
And then my husband, that is the strong one, that is the one that always, yes, he broke. Like I saw him and he started crying and he almost fall.
Mhm.
So I was like, nope. So okay, what are we gonna do? What's the plan? I and it's like we have to wait until Tuesday. You know, like usually.
And
I
you,
hate
and
that.
you I understand you as a mom. You go into that. I need to save my baby. What's it gonna take? Like you feel like you don't have that time to kind of cry. It's like an automatic. Okay, let's do this. What are we gonna do? So it's interesting that you and your husband kind of switched
Hmm.
in roles in that.
Yes, and my family got there too, so everybody was thinking that I was like crying on the floor. And when they came and they saw me, it's like, what's wrong with her? Like maybe she's in shock. Everybody's like, no, she's in shock. She's in shock. And I'm like, no, it's just like I need to be good for my baby. So, um, yeah, he had the surgery on Tuesday.
Mhm.
They prepared him everything
And what surgery was this?
to remove the tumor.
Okay, so
Uh,
resection of the tumor.
Tumor resection, yes. So they did that and they started working on the plan. I mean, they found out that it was ATRT and
Mhm.
then they work on the plan and it looked like a long treatment.
Okay.
So I decided like I wanted to stay in the hospital.
Hmm.
So I told the doctors I'm not going to go home until my son is fine.
Yeah.
So we spent 8 months at the hospital.
Oh, 8 months in the hospital.
Hmm.
That's a long journey because you hear, oh, initially they send you home, but it seems like you felt more safer in that environment and with every right. Um,
Yes,
but 8 months, was he your only child at that point?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
That's what I was totally focusing on him. And I told the doctors, I'm not gonna go home. And like, I need to stay here with him. And like, because something happened at home, what am I gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it took me 3 months to actually go home. Because every time we were leaving, that my parents-in-law were there helping,
Yes.
uh, we jump into the freeway and I'm like, go back. I cannot leave. Like, go back, go back, go back.
Hard, especially when it's a little tiny baby and they need you all the time. It's hard to just even for your own care to want to even separate. I think that's just like that motherly instinct, especially being your first baby. I can't imagine how hard that was to just even to care for yourself. Because when we're in this, we don't think self care. Like
Uh-huh.
that gets thrown out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I myself found hard to do as well.
Yes, like you forget completely about you and
Mhm.
you're just focusing on your baby. I mean, I always said like how hard it is for families that have more than one kid. Because one of my plans it was to have one baby and then the next one and then the next one, you know. And after that I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. I need to focusing on Rafi.
Was that his nickname, Rafi?
Rafita, Rafi, Gordo.
Rafita, I know gordo and like gorda are like typical, like, in the Hispanic.
But
I
I would
call
say
her that all the time too, gorda.
I would say Rafita.
Rafita is cute.
Yes, so the first thing we did it was the surgery.
Hmm.
They remove like about 95% of the tumor
Hmm.
because it was just spreading in little ramifications that they were so hard to uh, take out.
Uh-huh.
So after that, he started chemo, 2 rounds of chemo.
And how was that on a little baby?
It was hard, but at the second, when he finished the first cycle, the tumor was gone. Like
Okay.
the remaining cells were gone,
Okay.
but they still did the second round. And after that, they told us he was going to get the stronger chemo
Okay.
because the tumor was really one of the worst.
Hmm.
So They wanted to attack it with everything. So so they started the high dose chemo, and after that he got radiation. They did a transplant of his own cells. Yeah, they took some of those before they started the high dose chemo. High dose chemo, yes. Um, so every time he was gonna have a round of chemo, the high dose chemo, they will put the cells back, because if not, he will be so sick
Mhm.
and he could have passed.
For ATRT, because I'm not too familiar with ATRT, can you tell us initially, like, so that is treated, it's removal, resection of the tumor, chemo, and radiation? Is that what the protocol is typically?
For him, it was like this: the surgery, chemo, high dose chemo, and radiation.
Okay.
That's what it was for him. So that's what it was, a long treatment, and the whole time we stay at the hospital.
And was it both, were both you and your husband able to stay at the hospital, or was it just you?
Uh, it was mainly me, because he had to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
But every day before going to work or after work, he will stop by and stay with us. My husband has a good job. He works a lot, but I wasn't working at that time. Yeah, we just got married the year before. We bought a house, and then we got the baby. So like we were having, I mean, we were like, we need to start saving, you know. So when this happened, it surprised us a lot. So thank God we have a big family, and everybody started like, okay, let's do. They did a fundraiser,
Amazing.
so we got some money from there, so that will help us through, because the hospital is so expensive. Living in the hospital, oh my God, like,
Not only that, you have the food expenses, you have, just everything adds up. Like, have to get toiletries. Sometimes you forget something at home, and it's easier just to go to the street across the way
Mhm.
and buy it than having to drive home, and then parking, and it's just
Yes, and my husband had to work, and I was like, just I wanted him to be with us, but at the same time, it's like we have the insurance and we have a good healthcare because this job. So
yes.
I need to keep working.
Yeah.
So, but for me, it was like sell the house, sell the cars, you know, like I'm like, and he's like,
Whatever
no,
you guys had to do to save your child.
yes, and he's like, no, relax, I'm gonna keep working. I want my son to come home after the treatment.
Hmm.
He's home. So I was like, okay. So when he said that, I was like, okay.
When you were hit with the diagnosis of the ATRT, um, did you find that you were given enough information to understand the diagnosis, or did you find that you had to look elsewhere for more details of what it is and what is out there as far as treatments and options for Rafi?
Well, talking about that, like English is not my first language. So when I got there, my husband is the one that was receiving all the information, and he was trying to explain me, because he doesn't speak that in back then he didn't speak Spanish
Oh,
that good.
okay.
So um, he was trying to explain me everything, and I was like, I can't. Like, it's so hard to understand even in Spanish sometimes. So when the doctors came, I always understand just three words: tumor, cancer, and hydrocephalus,
Mhm.
because it's similar in Spanish, right?
Yes.
So uh, my husband, when he started working, he told me, I need you to go during rounds and tell me what's the plan for the day.
Hmm.
And I was like, I can understand. And um, I don't know why I didn't ask for an interpreter
Hmm.
back then. So the first days it was so hard. And after I think 1 or 2 months is when I told them, like, I need an interpreter. So
Yeah.
they brought me this iPad,
Hmm.
right? And there was a person, and it was translating everything, and I didn't even understand it in Spanish.
Hmm.
I was so blocked that I'm like, I don't know what is he saying even in Spanish.
Hmm.
So it was so hard at the beginning. So after months, one day I realized I didn't even need the interpreter. Like,
Hmm.
I start catching everything, answering to the doctors, telling them like, "Oh, I need you to do this. I need you, you know." So my English got so much better just by being there, so I could speak for my son.
And that's, I think, the best because, our kids' best advocates are ourselves. And it's really inspiring that you really went in not knowing much, even of the language and not having that. And, having to ask for these resources that I think, and that's something where I see the lack of in hospitals, that hospitals don't like, I don't know what it is, but they're not very proactive of offering these things. You have to like ask, and that should have been something that should have been offered to you right away. But just seeing that you took it upon yourself and learned the language and got better at it because you knew that you had to be there for your son. You had to be there to advocate for him because he's so small and couldn't do it, and your husband had to work. So that's very admirable of you to do, and it just shows how as parents and as caregivers we do the impossible if we can
Mhm.
to be there for our kids. And it's interesting that you tell me about the interpreter and not even understanding what they say, because this is something that, because I do a lot of advocacy for parents as well that don't have the language, just like you didn't. And I think what doctors and nurses and stuff don't understand about the the people that they have as interpreters, they're more of, they translate. The doctor says something and they translate it, but they don't interpret it to you. They don't break it down like a parent that has gone through it or in a way that you're going to understand. And sometimes when you're on this side, you just, sometimes you're in that, like you said, in that block, in that shock that you really don't know what questions to ask at the beginning. You
Exactly.
learn that as time goes. I don't know if that's how you
Mhm.
feel.
Yes, exactly. And I was a Spanish teacher, so imagine someone talk to me in Spanish, and I'm like, "What is he saying? I don't understand."
That's very interesting because you're very fluent then. If you were a teacher, very fluent. So the fact that you didn't even understand what they were trying to tell you, not aside from the fact that you might have been still in shock, but I feel like there needs to be more like they need to be able to interpret it to the parents. Not
Hmm.
so dry or not so doctorish, more as a person that you're understanding that you're being thrown into this world not knowing anything.
Yes, because one thing is talk to the doctor, you know,
Yeah.
but talking through someone is like, I don't know if I'm getting the right information, and if I if he's getting what I want to say. So it was so hard.
Or saying it the way that you're saying it, because
Yes.
things can also be said in all different ways or understood differently. How did you manage to take care of yourself or find ways, even if it was in the hospital, to care for yourself, like whether it's showers, whether it's eating, like how did you practice some self-care?
Whew. Well, with that diagnosis, it came PTSD and a lot of anxiety.
Mhm.
So whew, I was so focused on the baby that I didn't sleep. I was sleeping 2 hours when my husband came to watch the baby. Because you try to sleep in the morning, all the doctors come in the morning. At night, I was watching the baby, and in the afternoons, I was watching the baby. So I was just sleeping 2 hours a day. My vision, I always was uh, I always was seeing blurry because of the lack of sleep. I started developing some symptoms,
Mhm.
like with all the anxiety that I was having. Um, I had to go to the doctor, and I looked for a doctor around the block so I wouldn't be so far away.
Yeah.
Uh, and I went, and I'm like, I think I have a tumor. You need to do an MRI or a CT scan on me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have blurry vision. I get dizzy,
Mhm.
and what else I was telling? All these things I don't remember.
Yeah.
But the doctor is like, okay, I'll do it. I didn't mention that my son had a tumor, right?
Mhm.
So they did a CT scan, and it's like everything is fine. But I was like, I have something.
Yeah.
I felt this, I felt that, you know. So um, it was really, really hard because I was feeling so, but I think it was just my mind,
The stress.
the
The
stress, yes, and all these fears and all these things like just came together, and like I said, the lack of sleep, not eating. I mean, even when they have some good food,
hmm
you want the carbs, you want the sweets, you want the things that give you the rush of energy. So I was having two caramel frappuccinos a day, the Bentley's,
Yeah.
so I could stay awake
hmm
or like have a little
Yeah.
energy. I gained so much weight,
hmm
like I let myself go, and I gained like 40 pounds,
Wow.
I think.
hmm
So it was so hard to take care of me. The showers, I mean, we were in the PQ
hmm
um for like a month.
Okay.
So that is hard because you have to share the bathroom outside.
hmm
But when we were in the fourth floor, the cancer floor, it's nice when you're alone, so you have the bathroom for
Yeah.
yourself.
hmm
So it was easier. I started buying like these black leggings.
hmm
I had like six, seven pair of black leggings, and I was like, I hope they don't think I'm wearing the same ones.
And it's funny that we even think like that, like, oh, I always need to change or something because the doctors are just gonna be like, like when it's something that they probably don't even notice because they
Yeah,
understand, why we're there.
yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, but it's the only thing that they fit me, black leggings. I
Yeah.
mean, I was like, I'm gonna buy six, five, you know.
I till this day live in black leggings. I have a lot of those.
Yeah, so I told my husband, get me. I ordered it online. They get home, and my husband bring them to the hospital. You know, so I was like, I need this. So that's what I was doing.
Yeah. And you since he was so little, you essentially spent a lot of time alone with him in the hospital since your husband was working. How was that on your mental health? Like how was that as a mom? I know you said the PTSD and these symptoms that you thought you were have, but emotionally, like how was that for you and how did you handle that or work through
Okay,
that?
so because he had to work a lot,
hmm
and it was hard when he show up to the hospital because
hmm
he works 12 hours a day, and we live in Granada Hills. He works in Long Beach.
Oh wow, okay.
So he when I had the baby, I mean, he will be out for like 15 hours a day. So it was just me and the baby.
Yeah.
So same thing at the hospital. But even if he will stop only for 30 minutes, 1 hour, he will go, you know? So, um, but I always been a very respectful person,
hmm
like to doctors, to nurses, even when, they do sometimes that they,
Yeah.
"Argh," but
You
I'm like, yes, but I'm like, no, they taking care of my son. I mean, if there is something wrong, I will say it, but in a nice way. I will never, I'm not a person that gets angry, and I'm very respectful.
Mhm,
So, um, but when I saw things like that, I start noticing that I was getting angry at my husband.
mhm.
Like, it's 'cause you're not here, and so
Yeah.
I started getting so mad at him
mhm,
every time he was showing up. So that I was like even thinking about divorce. I'm like, I just want a divorce. Like I
Yeah.
feel like this anger that I had towards him, like because he wasn't there, but at the same time I knew he needed to work.
Yeah.
And he was so calm, and he will tell me like, this is not you. This is because of the situation. Relax, go to the cafeteria, and so he was so nice because I was always angry. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's and I understand that because it's you, you feel like the whole world is coming down on you and the people that you feel sometimes like most comfortable with are the people that you are most comfortable just kind of snap at. And it's
Hmm.
because you hold it all in with everybody all day, and then you reach to a point where you're like, you need to let that out, let that out.
And he was my safe person,
Hmm.
So, but the other thing that I didn't mention, and I think it happened to you too, like you see the word keep, uh, what's the word? Life goes on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
People doing their normal life, and I'm stuck with my son in the
In the
hospital.
hospital.
He's fighting for his life.
Hmm.
It was so hard, that part. Seeing people, like my sister-in-law, she got pregnant
Hmm.
after my son was diagnosed, and she didn't even want to tell me because she felt like, oh, because she knew that I wanted to have one kid after
Yeah,
the other.
yeah.
So when
And
she
here you
told me,
are, and here you are, in the hospital fighting for your son.
yeah, so when she told me that she was pregnant, she called me and she's like, I need to tell you this, but I know. So I thought about it for a long time, and it was like some part of me, the little evil and the little angel, like one was angry and the other one was happy,
Yeah,
you know. So I felt bad, and I relaxed, and I'm like, okay, I understand. Life keeps going. You're not stop there. It's not stopping for us.
yeah. And I think people need to also understand, and that's something that I always say, these two feelings can be present simultaneous at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in you can feel happy for someone but also angry about it. And it's not that you want to wish them unwell or you don't want that for them. It just hits you and it makes it even more real in your situation of like exactly, life goes on. Like
Mm-hmm.
the world's still spinning for everybody else when we're stuck here in the same place with our reality. And it's a sucky feeling and it's unfair. So I get it when you say you had, your little evil person and your angel here, like you felt angry, but you felt happy for them. And I think people need to understand that it's nothing negative towards that other person, but it's just anger that the world is still spinning while yours is crashing down.
Mm-hmm.
Unfair. And it's a very, very unfair feeling to have.
Yes, and when the baby was born, I even told her, like, I'm sorry, I cannot go meet the baby because my energy,
Hmm.
he doesn't need this bad energy that I have.
Yeah.
My anger to life, that it took me months to meet that baby because I'm like, I don't want to show up like having
In
these
those feelings.
feelings. Yes, he doesn't need that. So it took me a while, but they understood.
I was gonna ask, how did they take that? Did they understand?
Yeah, they understood. They know the situation, like we were living, and um, always the family supporting so much. So uh, um, my husband too, like, so it family is a big, big, um, that keeps you going.
Of
If
course.
it wasn't for my mother-in-law, my brother, my father-in-law, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah. That's amazing that you have that support system. A lot of us don't have that, and I think it's nice to have that support, and that everybody's understanding of what you're going through, and that you feel safe with family, especially.
Yes, because my family lives in Mexico. So my parents live in Mexico,
Okay.
and my sister lives in South Korea. So I don't have. I only have my cousin and my aunt over here, but they're doing their things. They're working, and they used to go visit us, but like my parent and my mother-in-law, they used to go every other day.
Hmm.
So that was our support system,
That's
our first support system.
amazing. Life now after loss. Do you find yourself having like symptoms of PTSD? Like how I guess are you working through that, and if it's present in your life right now? It's hard. You don't have to answer any of these questions, but I
No,
know.
no, it's fine. I like I I think it's never gonna go away. Uh, I just had another baby, thank God. So he's 7 months. Oof. But the first month, I was measuring his head like every other day,
Hmm.
you know. So the PTSD is never gonna go away. The ansiedad,
Anxiety.
anxiety, yeah, never gonna go away. Because you went. I always said it like the biggest fear of a parent is like that
Greatest pain. I always.
something happened to your kids. For me, it was that like uh, when I had the baby, I was worried that he had something, and he did. And then when he was sick, my biggest fear it was that he passed away,
Losing him.
and he did. So for me, it was like after he passed away, uh, the night he passed away, it was the first night that I slept for 8 hours. 3 months.
So Rafi, he was diagnosed at 4 months. You spent 8 months initially for frontline treatment in the hospital, getting that,
Hmm.
and then he went into remission.
Hmm.
So talk about that because I think a lot of people don't realize they feel like, oh, well, your child's in remission, things are fine now, you're cured. Like that's the
Hmm.
initial symptom, but it's not.
No, it's like once you have cancer, you always have cancer. So um, he was in remission, and for my husband, is like it was like, oh, he's fine. My son beat it. My son,
Yeah.
and I was because I saw videos. I follow other moms.
Yes.
I kind of like did my research, and I knew that this kind of cancer can come back, and when it comes back, it's for sure that the kid is gonna pass. So that was my other fear too, like that it comes back.
Hmm.
So I was always worried. I was always nervous. Like I said, appointments all the time. Just because his hair is growing, it doesn't mean that he's not sick.
Exactly. Hmm.
So my son, uh, he couldn't walk. He couldn't talk. He was legally blind. He was eating through a G tube, but still, he was the happiest baby in the world.
And this was all, and I want people to understand, these are all due to
The chemotherapy,
the
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 treatment.
treatment that's made for adults given to a 4 month old.
Mm-hmm.
Like the reality of how harsh that can be in a little body
Mm-hmm.
shows in the secondary symptoms. Secondary, some of them develop secondary cancers, and these symptoms that come after treatment that a lot of people don't talk about. And you just named quite a few in your son.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He had to have labs for his kidneys, uh, appointments with the endocrinologist just to make sure his hormones, because he wasn't going to grow in the as a normal kid.
Hmm.
Uh, so just because we stop the treatment, it doesn't mean that he's fine. That's what people don't understand. Because you while you're in the hospital or during treatment, everybody wants to help. Everybody's asking, how are you,
Yes.
what do you need.
Yes.
But after you said like, oh, he's in remission, it's like, okay, he's fine. Like, no. So that was the hard part. And going to the hospital the other days, like I said, 30, 40 minutes, with traffic, without traffic, depending. uh, or when we were scared, because one fever for a normal kid is, it's not that a big thing. For us, it's like, I have to go to the hospital. So we were, my son had something funny that we always go to the hospital on a Friday night.
Mm.
Always.
Oh my.
So I don't know why he will always get or worried or something happen always on a Friday night.
Hmm.
I'm like, you couldn't do it on Monday, like really. So, when the doctors are there, like,
And
because
I,
we were,
you know what? Like I think with Luna it was the same. I was like, why does it always happen on the weekend? Because you don't want anything to happen to your child at all. You don't want to end up in the
yeah,
hospital. But the hardest time is on a weekend.
yes,
Their doctors are not rounding. I think then they leave it, oh well, let's wait for Monday or what.
yes. So you have to spend Saturday and Sunday at the hospital just waiting.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, Rafi, really? So we spent many Christmas there or special days there.
Mhm.
So um, it it's hard, but I thank God that I was able to be next to my son.
Yeah.
There was a little baby when we were in PQ that he was alone, and they had a little picture of the family there, and I'm thinking it's because the parents had to work probably, or they have more kids.
Mm.
I learned not to judge because
Yeah.
my first thing is like, what are the parents?
Yeah.
But when I realized it's like, no, I mean, I'm blessed that I can be here, but they're parents that they cannot be here
Hmm.
because they have to work to keep like the other kids, or like, these things that
Hmm.
I learned not to judge.
And
And
it goes back to life keeps going around us. It doesn't stop. And there's some people that can't be there, that want to be there, and they may not survive. And again, some people have better support systems or stronger support system than others. And I think I've also learned, not to judge because you don't really know what people are going through. You don't know what they're living. You only know your life and your reality.
yes, I they they have some group therapies there. I signed up for those.
That's
So as soon as I knew about it, I signed up. I'm like, I'm going to get all the help that I can,
yeah.
because I'm a person that likes to talk. So
Yeah.
it helps me a lot.
Eating is good.
And yeah, I was in that. I got my therapist, like just to have all that as a tool,
Yes.
you
And you
know.
knew that you needed in
Mhm.
this moment. When your son went into remission, when how long passed until he had the reoccurrence?
So he was in remission in 2018
Hmm.
and
How old was he
2020. When he was in remission,
Yeah, when he went into remission.
he was 1 year old.
1 year
Yeah,
old.
yeah. His first birthday, he spent it at the hospital.
Oh, chiquito.
So it was in April, and we were discharged in May.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, life is a cycle, right? We
Hmm.
went there on a Friday afternoon, and we left the hospital in a Friday afternoon.
Wow,
So
those
um,
Fridays.
it's crazy. It was the in May 2018 is when we left, and then pandemic started, right, in 2020.
That was a tough time.
And we were good because I'm like, okay, we're at home, we don't go anywhere, we're healthy.
Perfect, you're right.
Yes, November 2020 is when I started noticing some symptoms, and I was like, no, please, no.
Hmm.
Like I wanted to finish this year healthy, like,
Yes.
and yeah, we realized that it came back.
And what were those symptoms at reoccurrence before you knew it was a reoccurrence that you saw? Were they similar to the initial? But because he was older at this point, right? How old?
He was
3?
3 years old.
Hmm.
Yeah. So he was 3 years old, and I noticed his face, the left side, was a little droopy,
Hmm.
like,
Droopy?
or he was moving his tongue to the side more. His eye was a little closed. So, and he didn't walk, but he moved his legs a lot,
Okay.
and then he stopped moving them.
Okay.
So when I noticed that he stopped moving them, it's when I would worry too. We went to the hospital. They did an MRI, and they found a tumor in his spine now.
Oh, in his spine.
Yes. So they did a tumor resection again, and we were gonna do. I think it was more chemo or more radiation. I don't know what were.
Hmm.
I can't remember if it was more chemo or radiation. But then 2 weeks later, I told the doctor something is wrong. We need to check his spine again. They checked it, and he had the tumor came back in 2 weeks.
Wow. That's quick.
It was so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So um, they decided just to do chemo
Mm-hmm.
to treat it, and I I don't remember exactly when, but we found out what it was. It came back in the brain again too. So it's when that's what I said when it comes back, it's when you know that there's nothing you can do.
Because it comes back more aggressive, it
More
sounds.
aggressive, and there's no more treatment. I mean, not to cure him, just to, like they
Prolong.
said, extend his life.
Yeah. And
Uh,
and I'm gonna ask you this, and I know this is sometimes hard to talk about. You know, you're always told quality over quantity, right?
mhm.
How did you guys, like, did you and your husband have a conversation or struggle to in an agreement for that? Were you both on the same page?
No. So when the cancer came back, that's when I broke, and I started crying. That's like I was like, wow, now I'm crying.
Different
Now
than
I'm feeling
the
it.
first time.
Yes, not like the first time. And you know what the strange thing is that my son was in the bed and he started crying, unconsolable too. And uh, he was feeling us. Even when he didn't understand, he was feeling us, right? So we talked to the doctor. She said, like, okay, there are some more treatments that we can try.
Hmm.
Um, so we still, back then, I think it was like August. Mm, no, the beginning of 2021, I think. So she said, like, okay, there's some treatments, let's try. So
Hmm.
we did one more treatment, but he wasn't getting better. So um, the the tumors were growing, and there was a moment that in August that we talked to the doctor, and she said, like, we can try one more thing, or we can stop right there. And because I told you that my parents-in-law, they're always a support system,
Yeah.
I told my husband, this is not a decision of two. This is a decision of four.
Hmm.
So we cannot make any decision right now. We need to go talk to your parents and let's see what they say. So we asked them to come home. They came. We talked to them and we said, like, one more treatment to extend his life, or we stop right there. And everybody agreed, like, he already fought so much that it was time to rest.
Rest. That must
So
have been really hard to
yes,
come to
yes,
realization.
yeah, no more treatment. We came home with a hospice care. And the hardest part is that my cousin, that is a sister to me, she was pregnant. So she was always asking me, she was the godmother. So, hey, how is the baby? How is Rafita? And I was like, I knew she was pregnant, and how could I tell her, like, he's going to die, you
Yeah.
know? So I told her, like, no, the doctor is going to start a new treatment, and I was just telling her something, like, to calm her down.
Hmm.
She came to visit.
It's amazing to hear that even when you were in in the middle of your storm, you're trying to protect others from your reality.
The hardest part is here. She came visit, and they saw the baby. I mean, Rafita, and she's like, "Oh yes, we're planning the baby shower. We're eh, and deep inside me, she's like, she's getting ready for a new life, and now I'm getting ready to lose my baby. And I couldn't say anything because I didn't want to hurt her.
Yeah.
Deep inside me, I was dying,
Yes.
but I couldn't say anything because I love her so much and I want her to have healthy pregnancy. And it was so hard that day. I still remember, like, ah, so hard. My nephew came September 1st. My son passed away September 10th. So,
That must have been really hard, but he was still here when Yefe was born, and
yeah.
that must be hard. The way that you say it, she was getting ready for bringing a new life, and you were pretty much getting ready to lose a
Mhm.
life. And I think people don't understand when you lose a child, you lose yourself too. You feel like you die with them.
I always said it. I was like, the day my son dies, I'm going to die. I was like, I cannot live with him without him, because he was my dream. I always wanted to be a mom.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that nobody, sometimes some people don't understand,
Mhm.
right? I always wanted to be a mom. I always wanted to be able to take care of my babies, my children. And that was my dream. It's like, you want to be a doctor? I wanted to be a mom,
Yeah.
you know? So that's why I always dream about having this baby. And I didn't see a life without that baby.
Yes. Hmm.
So, because I always dreamed that it was a boy too.
Yeah.
So I knew it. And it was so hard that I was like, I'm going to die with him. I'm going to go with him because I don't know how to live without him. So, um, there was a funeral of a friend's son a
Hmm.
few months before,
Hmm.
and I couldn't go. I'm like, I cannot go because I don't want to imagine that before my son passed.
Yes.
I I don't want to imagine, start thinking about it, because there's something that is behind your head, like, what if it, when it's my son's time, what's gonna happen.
Hmm. Even though you try to think as positive and as, we're gonna beat this, it's always that possibility that I think as adults, as we know the reality of how fragile life can be, and more when
Yes,
you're faced with the cancer diagnosis.
I think it's a fine line between being a positive person and, I'm sorry, a negative person and a realistic person. Because my husband, he was more positive. He's like, don't bring that energy here. La, la. I'm like, it's not that I'm bringing energy. It's just like, it's the reality. Every day is a child dying because of this cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I was in an ATRT group
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook. Every day that I wake up, there was a new kid passing away. There was a moment that I'm like, I need to leave this group. I cannot. My heart is just crashing every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I left the group. I'm like, I don't want to know anything else. I'm sorry. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Because I will start my day nice. I open Facebook, I see that, and boom.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Like, and that's what is the fine line between how you're a negative person or you're a realistic person.
Yeah.
The
And I
reality.
agree. I agree with that. And I think um, there is, you can be negative or you can be realistic. And I think a lot of parents are realistic. There's a large majority that are realistic, that we understand that, especially with ATRT, especially with DMG like Luna had. You know, with like DMG, you're like you're told your child's not going to survive this. So even though you're like, my child could be that 1%, my child could be the one child that gets cured. The reality is, like, I always sat with my reality, like,
Yeah.
this is what is shown to happen. Not just, it's not new. It's years and years and years of this happening with this diagnosis, and there is that fine line of being negative and being realistic.
Hmm.
As much as it hurts you to think that way. I don't know if you ever felt like guilt to think that way, like guilt of like, damn, maybe I am being negative.
Oh my gosh. I felt sometimes the worst person because I was like, why am I imagining my son in a coffin? Why? You know? Uh, it's like, I don't need those thoughts. Come on, go, go. Like, because I was cleaning and then boom. And I'm like, why? Why am I bringing these? It's because I think I was preparing myself.
Hmm.
And that was my way to protect me.
Yeah.
Because when my son passed away, oh, he passed away here at home. We were at the hospital, like I said, September 1st, the
Yes.
day my nephew was born. We were at the hospital. And I told the doctors, if he's going to pass away, they made us sign a paper. I'm like, I just want to take him home because we couldn't have visitors there. And
Hmm.
I wanted my parents-in-law to be there with us.
Yeah.
My parents were traveling from Mexico too. So I'm like, I'm going to go home. And I mean, I we get so good at doing things for our kids too. Like I almost became a nurse.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
you know.
I feel like we become nurses and doctors without training, and
Hmm.
sometimes we tend to just know it better because we know our kids best, and we spend most time that sometimes we catch things that the doctors or nurses aren't catching.
Yes. So I was like, I'm just gonna take him home with us. So we came home, and like I said, it was. They told us what going to start, um, what was going to start happening,
Hmm.
right? So my husband thought like, oh, maybe it's gonna be weeks, a month,
Hmm.
and deep inside me, I was like, it can be days, you know. So and yes, after we came, 2 3 days later, we start noticing the decrease in the oxygen,
Hmm.
like the heart rate and all these things, and I'm like, it's happening. So um so he left in a week.
Wow.
And the hard part is that the way that I saw my son the last days, it was the most painful thing in the world because you don't want him to go, but you don't want to see him like that.
Yeah, 100%.
We were family were here. Some of them were sleeping on the floor. Those days, like I said, I was sleeping 2 hours because or less because I'm like, what if I go to sleep and he passed away when I'm sleeping? So I didn't sleep. That's what I said. When he actually passed away, I slept for 8 hours.
Yeah.
But it was so hard. But it was hard, but it was beautiful.
Hmm.
He was here in his house with his family,
Hmm.
grandparents, cousins. We were singing. We were remembering things, uh, playing the guitar. He met his little cousin,
It's beautiful.
and the duality of life, right? My little cousin, all red and cacheton, like what's it, blush,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And my son pale, like with his eyes, he couldn't even open them anymore. So, and like I said, it was beautiful and it was hard.
Yeah.
So when I thought about it, I'm like, I don't want him to be another week like this. I'm like, I talked to God and I said, like, God, we ready?
Hmm.
I talked to Rafita and Rafita, it's okay to go. Like, you're tired, you fought a lot. You fought a lot.
Yeah.
4 years fighting this. You gave us 4 years. It's okay to go. And that morning, uh, my husband and I were holding him, and deep inside me, it's like, you know what? I haven't prayed for my son. And I start saying the Our Father,
Yeah.
and after we finish is when he gave his last breath.
And I think that's the hardest thing, that is unfair and unnatural to, as a parent, tell your child that it's okay to go.
Hmm.
Because I feel like our kids hang on as long as they can for us.
Hmm.
And as a parent, to be selfish and tell your child it's okay to go. It's a really hard thing.
I talked to a thanatologist,
Mm.
the person that helped you with grief,
Yeah.
And she told me like the day he passed, you're preparing, it's crazy, right? But she told me like the day he passed to try to be calm, to make his transition smooth and,
Yeah.
beautiful. So my family was there, and I was, like I said, I prayed for him, I was kissing him, and then I hear my mom start screaming, crying, and I was like, out, salte, get
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
We don't need that right now.
Yeah.
So it was just a beautiful moment, holding him, kissing him. Everybody came and gave him a kiss, say bye. So, but like I said, my mom's screaming, and I'm like, no, we don't need that.
I'm gonna I admire you for that. And that's something that I try to educate parents on, saying, and I tried, and the support system too. When you're in that place, when your child's about to transition, you don't need anybody else's emotions and feelings to worry about, because that moment, and I always tell parents, it's okay, and I was told this too, it's okay to tell people, I do not want you in the room. I just
Mhm.
want it to be me and the kids, or me and my husband, me and whoever it is that you choose. You have every right to include or exclude anybody, because it's your baby. And like you said, you wanted it to keep this beautiful moment. You didn't want that crying or have to unfocus of that when your child is transitioning.
Mhm.
It's okay. And I always say, I want people to understand that it's okay. And on the other side, don't feel offended if a parent says, I don't want you in the room.
Mhm.
It's nothing against you. It's about, the reality is, my child is getting ready to go to the other side of heaven. Like, it's like they're not going to be on earth side anymore. So we're never going to get any more time. So it's okay to say who you want in the room, who you do not want in the room, what you want to allow in those last days.
Mhm. Yeah, so I asked her to leave, uh, and then I was still holding tears. I was still like holding him, telling him I love him, I love you, we're gonna be okay, So all these things to make him feel comfortable. And then family were calling the funeral services and all that stuff, and they gave us 2 hours to be with the baby.
2 hours.
So yes,
Okay.
so we gave him a bath. That it was a ritual that he had with his grandparents.
Hmm.
We brought the little bucket in the living room, bathtub, sorry,
Yeah.
and the four of us, we were holding him to give him the bath.
Hmm.
We changed his clothes and everything, and then when I sat down with him, so when the funerary services came, is when it got real. They're gonna take him. I remember grabbing him, I hold him, and I start walking to all the rooms in the house.
Yeah.
The first room is this one. It's my office.
Hmm.
He used to come here and sit in his wheelchair stroller, um, and be here with me. That's when I broke. I start crying. It's like, you were my partner. You were the person that I was here. It was so hard that moment. And then I went to his room, and this is always gonna be your room, and then the last one, our room. I
Hmm.
put him on the bed, and so just a little last tour in around his house,
Yeah.
and then we came to the front. And when you see that they come with the
The,
with the
the gurney, the bed.
mm-hmm, yeah, the bed, and they put him over there, it's the worst feeling in the world. It's like you're not gonna see him again.
It's the last time that you physically have
Mm-hmm.
a child.
So my husband and I, everybody was there. We were just standing in the back in the front yard, and they were very respectful. They dropped really slow, so, and we were with the heart broken.
Yeah.
So we We did the services 2 weeks later because I was waiting for my sister from Korea.
Hmm.
So I asked them to let me see him before the services because I was like, am I gonna go crazy? You know, because I
Right.
was waiting for that to hurt, like actually to hit me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is not I mean, I had some tears, but I think like,
You were still in that shock and disbelief of
yeah, I'm like, this is not.
happening.
Yes. So I asked them to let me see him on a Friday, and we were gonna go. The services were gonna be on a Monday.
Hmm.
So I went over there with my mom, with my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and my husband. We went there. We saw him so pretty, um, in his Minions PJs because it was his favorite color, yellow. Uh, and he was cold. Uh, and deep inside me is like, this is not my son anymore. This is just a body.
Yeah.
So I was calm. I
Hmm.
was like, I'm okay. He's fine.
Hmm.
He's resting.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was hitting me in a different way than the way I thought it was. I
Yeah.
thought it was gonna go crazy. I thought I was gonna pull my head. You know all these things? No. On the services on Monday, same thing. I was calm. I was relaxed. I was like, my son is fine. He finally rests. He fought so much.
Yes.
He was so strong.
Hmm.
He was my teacher in this life, how my master, my teacher to be a strong person. I learned from the best.
And you were there every day, every second of the day to see that. And now I feel like you felt it's kind of hard to say, but you felt that relief for him that he was no longer fighting that way.
Hmm. And I remember seeing people saying like, she's in shock, because they didn't see me cry. And she's in shock. It hasn't hit her.
Hmm.
But what they didn't understand is that I prepared for that day since months before, years before. It's like I lived the grief during his life. And like you said, that moment is that he's already resting.
Yes.
So it's not that I was in shock or anything. It was just I prepared myself that I was ready. Like I said, it was, I think, my the way that I protect myself, thinking all this time
Mhm.
that this is gonna happen. This is what's going to happen. So um after that, yeah, like I said, I didn't kill myself. When he passed away, uh, we got we had a lot of morphine that he was taking. All his because he was having a lot of seizures, so all his seizures medications, all that, and I was like, I'm gonna save this because I don't know how life is gonna get, you know.
Yeah.
So I hide it, I hid it, put it away, and I'm like, I'm just gonna keep this. So one day talking to a friend, uh, I told her like, you know what? I don't want to die.
Hmm.
I'm the only person that carries my son memory. Also my husband. I mean, but
Yeah.
we're the ones. If we die, it's like our son is actually dying.
Yes.
So I went. I threw all the pills, all the morphine, everything away,
Hmm.
and I said like, no, my lives now. Live. My son lives now through me.
Hmm.
I need to be the best version of myself because now I'm living for him.
Yes. I
So I
always,
reset my mind.
mhm. I always say I'm going to live the life my daughter was denied. Because
Hmm.
how unselfish is it for me to end mine because when she fought so hard to be here and against all odds. And that's why I always say that's why I'm still here.
Yes.
Hmm.
Hmm. So I reset my mind, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna leave,
Hmm.
because he couldn't.
Yeah.
So I I start. changing my habits. I felt better. I lost weight.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, I need to be healthy again because I want to have another baby.
And how was that? How was how did that decision come?
Uh, the thing that I always heard from people too, that I think I skipped that part, is that uh, a diagnosis like this can break a marriage or make it stronger, right? So for us, like I said, I wanted divorce, but
Yeah.
once we came back home after 8 months, it was like nothing happened. Everything was back to normal, right?
Hmm.
And then I hear it after a loss, it's the same thing.
Hmm.
It can break you or it make you stronger. So uh, for my husband and I, it was like brought us more together
Hmm.
because for him, I was his strength and he was my strength when I needed.
Yes, it's
Because
beautiful.
we have our weak moments,
Hmm.
and I was there for him, and he was, all these right connection,
Hmm.
like, and what, not connection, what's the word? Balance,
Hmm.
what we needed in that moment.
Yeah.
So we said once I get healthier, because like I said, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, overweight,
Because it was years of not taking care of yourself and putting
hmm
your son first and not doing any of the self-care. And I was at that point too, where, I gained 40 pounds too. So now you're in a life where you're in a new normal. It
hmm
shouldn't be. But now you're like, well, what do I do? So
hmm
it's beautiful to see that, you took those steps to start that self-care again.
So talking to my husband is like, I'm going to get healthy,
Hmm.
and let's try again. Let's have another baby. I love seeing him as a parent.
Hmm.
So, and I always knew that we were meant to be parents,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So, he's an amazing dad, uh, and I think I'm a good mom. I was like, let's try again, and yeah, we did. After a year,
A year.
and then my son now is here,
What's his name?
Lex.
Lex. Okay. You
Yes,
said he's 7 months old?
yes.
Oh.
Rafita, after my husband Rafael,
Mm-hmm.
and Lex is after me, Leslie.
Oh, that's beautiful. And how, how has that been? Do you talk to I know he's only 7 months old, but do you talked about his brother, like to him? Do you see him in him at all?
A lot. It was so hard at the beginning because my husband and I, we used to call him Rafita,
Mm-hmm.
like, but not. It was like, oh, get Rafita. I'm like, no, it's Lex, it's
It's just
Lex,
an automatic, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, no, remember, it's Lex, it's not Rafita,
Hmm.
So, but it just came naturally. It's like, so now I think we got better,
Yeah,
but it's different. Like, I see similar things,
yeah.
but I also see him in his own personality,
Person.
and that's something that deep inside me, it was like, is this maybe Rafita that is coming back,
Hmm.
or is this a new life?
Yeah.
So I decided that this is a new life.
Hmm.
He's not going to carry my fears and my so um
The trauma that
the traumas. Yes, I'm like, no, he's a new life, and I'm not gonna pass the trauma. I mean, it's hard,
it is.
but yeah, because
It's a choice you make, I think, every day that you get up, every moment. Like you're constantly like saying, "Hey," like kind of bringing yourself back to what is the reality and saying, "Okay, we gotta kind of work through this." So I understand that.
yeah, because they look so much alike.
Yeah.
So it's hard, but I'm like, nope, this is not Rafita. I know deep inside me, I wish, no, but no, this is not Rafita. This is Lex.
Yes.
This is another baby,
Mm-hmm.
and he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's completely different to what it was with Rafita. I see so many things that I couldn't experience with Rafi, that I'm amazed every day. It's like, wow. you know.
Because he was diagnosed at such an early age, I think it takes away from the new first and milestones. Like your
Mhm.
life is completely different than what is considered normal. So now you get to experience those with licks, and
Yes.
that must feel beautiful.
Yes, no, we're so happy.
And
When Rafita, it was his first year in heaven
mhm,
in September.
mhm,
Uh, we went to Switzerland, to one of the highest mountains that you can go, by not by train.
by train.
We didn't.
Yeah, you don't have to hike.
Yeah, you don't have to hike. Yes. So we went over there, because I felt like I want to be closer to the sky, to be close to him. So
Mhm.
we did that, and it was amazing. It was like, let's try to remember him doing good things. Let's try to remember him, uh, in a good way,
Yeah,
because because like I mentioned, and I keep telling everyone, he was the strongest boy.
yeah.
Like, he suffered so much.
Mm,
He was always smiling, always laughing, and like when I mentioned you that he didn't walk,
mhm.
he didn't talk. Like, he was so smart that he made himself understand what he wanted and how he wanted it.
Yeah, he found a way.
Yes, and if it wasn't because the stroller that he had to have. But if he was in a normal stroller, he looked like a normal kid.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm like. See how strong he is. We need to be strong like him.
And I don't know if you've ever came across, because you have a new baby. I mean, he's still 7 months old, so I say new baby, but people that may say, "Oh, having another baby," because I've gotten this a lot. Having another baby makes it better. I don't know if you've ever gotten that from anybody.
I really haven't get that. I think I get it from myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I see now a lot of pictures of this baby
Hmm.
that I'm like, all Rafitas are staying behind every time,
Hmm.
and I feel bad.
Hmm.
I'm like, no, I don't want to forget. Like, I don't want to forget Rafita. So I feel it more myself.
Hmm.
Like, we haven't taken the baby to the cemetery, um, because I'm like, I'm not ready yet, you know?
Yeah,
So, um, it's not that I have, it's not that I don't want to go. It's just like,
you're not ready.
I'm not ready.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, uh, but I feel it more, my own, judgment, I
Yeah.
think.
Hmm. You still feel guilt, or
Guilt. Yeah, that I'm like, why am I doing this? You know? I don't know.
and then are there any regrets that you have with his journey?
I always think that if I have a time machine,
Hmm.
when people like, and to go back to a moment, it's like I cannot change anything,
Hmm.
because I think he was born with the tumor.
Hmm.
So
Because it was so little.
yeah,
Hmm.
so there's nothing I can change.
Yeah.
It's not like an accident, like,
Hmm.
oh, crash a car and they die, like thing like that. No, it's he was born with it, and I love my son. I wouldn't even like another baby. So, um, during treatment, I think I would have liked, to know more things,
Hmm.
like other treatments.
Hmm.
They suggest like the proton beam,
Hmm.
that they don't have a children's hospital. I
Yeah.
think
I think only San Diego
San Diego.
has
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Uh, and I would like not being scared of trying that one, like going over there.
Yeah.
I think we decided to stay here also because we were comfortable that
Well,
family was here.
yes.
That I was like, if we go to San Diego, what am I gonna do by myself all the time? So
Every reason, yeah.
but at the same time, it's like, but if I have done it, maybe he would, these little things. But at the same time, I just keep telling myself, it is what it is, and it had to be that way.
There's nothing really that you could have done because people don't understand that that's how cancer works. It's not like an accident. It's not like something you did caused him. Especially when you see a baby that's only 4 months old and they're probably only drinking either breast milk or formula,
Hmm.
nothing else. And a lot of people's like, oh, it's what you gave him or if it's environmental. But the reality is, it comes down to we just were dealt with bad cards. And our children, especially in children, they get cancer, and there's nothing that we could have done to prevent it. And
Hmm.
it's good that you say that so more people can hear from other people and understand that that's how the
It's like
reality
this.
of cancer is.
It's like the doctor said. It's the lottery that nobody wants to win.
Exactly.
And the other thing that I would like to say, it's uh, when I found out that you feel guilty because, yeah, like you said, it's the baby. It's just eating formula or breast milk, right?
Hmm.
It's like I was thinking maybe it was me. Maybe because I didn't walk more. Maybe because I ate those tacos from Jack in the Box. Or maybe because I was cleaning the kitchen with Clorox and,
Yeah.
so I was blaming myself.
Hmm.
And for a long time, I felt like it was my fault. Maybe I should have taken more vitamins. Maybe, until I met this mom at the hospital. That's why it's important to go to these groups
Yeah.
because you see things different.
Hmm.
I met this mom. Her daughter had a leukemia,
Leukemia. Yeah.
but she said like I have the most natural birth, no medication. I used to work out 5 times a week. I ate everything organic. I like she did everything that it was supposed to be, and her daughter was still had cancer.
Yeah.
So when she said that, I'm like, it's not our fault either.
That was your realization that you shouldn't be guilting yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
It's hard. Yeah, because I think through diagnosis, there's a lot of guilt. All guilt comes up a lot of times. And then I agree with you. It's important to connect with other families that are part of this community because they help you kind of walk you through all these emotions. And we may not all have the same ones, but in itself, it's a different support because it's different to get that support from someone that doesn't really live in this world, but someone that actually gets it because they've walked in our shoes.
Hmm.
It's,
Yes,
it's very
and that helped me so much after hear her talk. Because you talk to the therapist, but she's a therapist. Like this mom is going through the same thing that I'm going, and even when we go through the same thing, it's different.
yes,
Right? So, but when I hear her saying that, it's like it was like a light. It wasn't my fault.
yeah,
Like she removed so much weight over my shoulders
amazing. Hmm.
that I was like, wow, thank you. I mean,
What advice do you have for parents that are newly diagnosed or that are barely starting to step foot into this world that they're forced into as a bereaved mom? What is your advice to those parents?
I will say, focus on your kid first, because there are gonna be times that you want to learn more about the tumor or about the cancer. But you need to focus your energy on your sons or your daughter first, and then with time you can start reading things, hearing from other parents, because there's some sad stories that you don't want to know right away, and uh, but also uh, get the knowledge from the doctors. Like they give you books, they give you resources that um, tells you about cancers and read about it, about treatments, because it is important to know, but it's also important not to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to say, but
Yes.
it's
No, I understand what you mean. And I guess my next question is, what do you want to say to those people that know maybe are not part of this community because they've never had a personal experience, but what would you want the outside world to know?
before my son was diagnosed. Uh, I I didn't know kids can get cancer, right? And when I came here to the United States,
Mm-hmm.
I started seeing those commercials, the St. Jude,
Injured. Mm-hmm.
and I hated them, to be honest. Every time that I saw it on TV, I would change the channel, I would mute, or I would turn my head. I didn't want to see them. I don't know why I always, even before having kids, I was like, I don't want to see this. I don't, I don't know why. Just change it. I didn't want to see it. I never in my life I thought that I will be one of those parents. Never.
Mm-hmm.
So cancer can happen to anyone. It doesn't care if it's you're a woman, a man, rich, poor. So I think we need to be more. We need to understand more that this disease can happen to anyone, and you need to be grateful if you have a healthy kid at home,
Yes.
even though tomorrow cannot be.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
Yes.
It's hard, but it's a reality.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, more kids are getting cancer, and we need to make um, the government, the laws, and like I don't know, like people to understand that they need to focus on better treatments for their kids.
A lot of these things like radiation is not made for children 3 and under. And a lot of our kids that have brain tumors are getting radiation because it's the only thing that will help shrink or prolong life. And radiation causes its own, effects, side effects, like necrosis.
Mm-hmm.
Kids can lose the ability to do a lot of things because it's the brain.
Yeah,
But I agree with you. There needs to be better treatment for our kids.
and we have to think that those little persons are the future.
Yeah.
So um, more kids are getting cancer like more often. Some of them are dying, but the ones that they live also, they don't even have a nice life.
Mm-hmm.
They have all these side effects
Yes.
that they cannot have a normal life. They don't grow in the right way. They're dealing with seizures. They're dealing with all the, like my son, he couldn't talk. He he um he was legally blind because of his treatment.
Treatments. Not the cancer itself, but the treatments to
Yes,
to to you know make him help him go in remission, which is
yes.
heartbreaking to see as well. Yeah.
So they need to focus on these. I know there's so many things going on in the country, and but or the kids are the future,
Yes.
and we're just leaving them on the side. And like I said, you might have a healthy kid at home today, but you don't know tomorrow.
You you don't know what you don't know. Like I always say, I once before was a mom that didn't have a child with cancer. And now I
Mm-hmm.
sit here today, we sit here today as bereaved parents of a child of brain cancer.
Yes.
Mm.
And the thing is, it's happening more often, and we need to maybe we cannot prevent it,
Hmm.
but we need to find the better ways to cure it, to treat it.
Yes, I completely 100% agree. Well, thank you so much for coming on and, being vulnerable and talking about Rafael and giving us the opportunity to hear his story and in your story and your journey. And I know it'll help a lot of people connect and know that they're not alone.
What you're doing is amazing. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I try after he passed away to do like a TikTok thing and also talk about grief.
Hmm.
But like I mentioned, my English is not the best, so I quit.
Hmm.
But I always said like I would love to be I would love to talk about him, like, cause every time that I talk about him, like my I remember him happy.
And I could tell because when you talk about him, you smile and it just
Yes.
gives you a light.
That's what everybody says. Like, it's like how it's my husband cannot talk about him without getting sad.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, why? I mean, I talk about him happy because I had him.
Yes.
He was here with me for 4 years.
Hmm.
It sounds like a little time, but it's the time he had to be.
Hmm.
And like I said, Lex was born in September. So Rafita passed away September 10th, and Lex was born in September 4th.
Wow.
So
Hmm.
I see that as my son Rafita
Hmm.
is like, here, mom, don't think about September as a bad month. It's amazing. Like I said, what you're doing. I couldn't do it. Like, I wanted to do that. I wanted to like also express myself and talk to people that like this, make them realize that it can happen to anyone.
Hmm.
But I couldn't do it. So for now, I'm just focusing on my baby. Like I said, I always wanted to be a mom.
And that's a
And
100% okay. And I want you to know that some people just can't, some people can. I find it hard to do myself, doing it, but I want to do it to help others. But that's 100% okay because you got a baby at home that, that needs you and that's your everything, especially after going what you've been through.
but thank you for doing this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to practice my English.
It's an honor. No, you did beautiful. I don't know what you were talking about. Your English is so good. No, but I appreciate you like just wanting to come on here and trusting me with your son's story because I know it's hard to talk about it and especially putting it out there for so many people to see. But thank you for trusting me to share your son's story.
Thank you.